We're setting up a new locale, so let's bring up a little bit of light here. I'll get Jim a little closer. More. It's a little reflection. Did we turn that one on? Yeah, that was good. Yeah. I think that's good. Hey, everybody. Hello. I want to welcome Jim Hanson, my friend, from Spirit in the Desert, spiritual mentor. Not my mentor, we're mutual mentors to each other, but his title is spiritual mentor at the Spirit in the Desert Retreat Center. And I'm going to ask him about that in a minute. But hey, Priscilla, hey, Irma, hey, Tris, good to see you all. All right, we have a great discussion. I'm going to bring the music down a little bit, although it is kind of, cool. I've been on my little unexpected journey for now a week and a half, and got home and decided I needed some more, and talking to Jim, decided to come up here and visit. That's what happens when they, say, take off your mask, all you who are tired, and what's the scripture? All you who are weary
and heavy laden.
And thoroughly masked.
Yes.
And thoroughly vaxxed to be able to unmask and get together, thoroughly unmasked. So welcome to the community of the Wild Goose. And so Jim, before we get into a continuation of what's been going on now for a day, for about 24 hours, it's been just kind of a little nonstop conversations about theology and about life and about love. And we're not going to talk about the love part.
No,
we'll leave that. That's none of your business. But we will talk about the theology part and scoot in just a little bit so it doesn't look like I'm hogging all the airtime, because you guys know.
But you are.
I'm not like that.
No.
I'm not one to.
It's not about you.
Did you know I was the original gorilla for the Phoenix Suns? Did you know that?
No, I didn't. What's your email address?
Henry@henryrojas.com.
Okay,
yeah,
that's good.
I would be Henry@henryrojas.henryrojas, but I don't know why that doesn't work. I tried. Trust me, I tried. So we're gonna have a little conversation. Before we start, let's do a little contemplative moment, and I want to read for you this little quote from John O'Donohue. It's called "For Equilibrium, a Blessing," and I think it'll kind of kick us off really good on this idea of. I was telling Jim that I had a session with my spiritual director, Frank, in the parking lot of Seaport Village in San Diego via phone in my car. And I'm so glad I had that session, because, we think we're having the spiritual experience, and then we return from that into the world experience and work and that kind of thing. And I was feeling an integration between those two. Mm-hmm. But I felt a fear that if I became too spiritual, we're hearing things from spirit, that I'd be way out there, that weirdo way out there, that religious fanatic. And I already was that.
Because you're not out there.
Yeah.
You're pretty mainstream.
Yeah. I don't want to be unusual, or
different.
Or did you know I was a gorilla for the Phoenix Suns?
I didn't.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
didn't know.
So
the original one, or were you a copy?
Yeah. And there's no others like me.
Oh,
yeah, no, except No Invitation.
Okay.
All the rest are imposters. All right. But I'm just one of everyone.
You just want to be a part of, just be one of the guys.
Yeah. I don't mean to flaunt my humility.
No.
But
but if you're going to be great at anything, you want to be great at humility.
Yeah,
Be the best at it. Yeah. Me too.
We're so good at it. So in talking to Frank, what was really encouraging was the realization that actually life that I was enjoying, seeing my family, some of my family and nieces and nephews in San Diego, being with my daughter Andy and Perry and the girls, and now coming up with you here and hanging out, that this is an all-inclusive spiritual journey, like at Mazatlan, it's like all-inclusive.
Yes.
That the earth parts, the parts when we are not necessarily totally aware of the things that are important, it is still a part of what is included. in the spirit of life.
Right.
Yeah. So we'll talk more about.
I mean,
that.
it's like there are days up here in Flag, I'll just go walking out in the forest. I don't need to spend time in contemplation in the morning, just quiet on the couch or in the chair. I'm just enjoying nature, and I'm feeling a part of spirit.
Yes.
In that, they're not exclusive.
They're not exclusive, and yet when we do contemplative things, all we're doing is becoming more intentional. I think about those things which make us realize what really matters and where life is.
Right.
You know, I love what Jürgen Moltmann says, that we were talking about this earlier, that the description of flesh in the Bible was, or even with a lot of the philosophers back then, that there was something wrong, inherently wrong with flesh. It's bad.
Right.
You know, sin dwells within the pores of my skin. Flesh
It oozes out.
It oozes. Yeah, don't show your oozing
flesh.
Sin. You know? Yeah. And even to the point that they believed that it needed to come into submission.
Right.
Beat it, hurt it into submission. That's why sufferings are. But Jürgen Moltmann says that flesh is anything that is living that will die. It's still a beautiful thing as you're walking in the forest. The green, it's alive, but it will die.
Right.
Our bodies are alive, but they will die. But those parts of us that are heaven, the treasures, are the things that spirit is alive, that will never go away. You know, as you experience,
but is present in that, in the flesh, in those trees, in the sunsets, in the rivers, in the streams. I mean, that's incarnation. That's the point of incarnation, is the word or the spirit becomes flesh. So flesh can't be bad if the spirit's willing to take it on.
And not necessarily just in us.
No,
but in all of earth, in all things.
Yeah.
It's so. I've been attacked. I don't know. Attack's a strong word, but I've had pushback on God in all things. Have you had that?
Oh yeah,
yeah. Because it sounds. It doesn't sound like the exclusivity of spirit within the person who's prayed the abracadabra prayer of Jesus into their heart.
So if someone tells me that God's not in everything is my response, then God must not be in you. That's what I'm experiencing now, not God in you, by attacking me. I mean, if I think God can be in me, God should probably have the capabilities of being in anything.
Yes. And you know, and the idea that somebody says they had an awakening, they come to God.
Yeah.
If they did not have God in themselves before they came to their understanding, their awakening, their clarity, if they did not have God in them, they wouldn't have had the capacity to come to God.
No.
They wouldn't be drawn to the very thing they already have.
Yeah.
So that awakening is the awakening to the realization that we have something we didn't know we had.
Right.
And we're connected.
And it's that, I think, really abused Bible verse where Jesus says, no one comes to the Father but by me. And then we reduce it to our understanding of Jesus or the Christ. And that's the only way you can get to the Father. Where I think what Jesus is saying, whatever puts you in touch with the Father or the Creator or whatever puts you in touch with Spirit, I'm in that.
He's in that way.
Yeah, I'm in that way.
Yeah.
Because if I look at a sunset and I feel myself part of creation and part of spirit and part of God, then the Christ is in that sunset, because you can't get to the spirit
if you really, and maybe
so it's whatever Christ then becomes a verb, becomes whatever puts you in touch with spirit and creation and the Creator. That's the Christ. Whatever vehicle that is the Christ.
Yeah.
It's very expansive rather than very narrow, how we've interpreted it.
Oh, but then they'll say, though, that's the narrow way. That's why it's the narrow way. I think the narrow way is simply, it's the hard way to go because it's expansive.
Right.
It's paradoxical.
Yeah.
It's a narrow way to believe that it's very, very expansive.
Yes.
Because I want it to be me and specific.
Yeah. Henry at henryrojas.com is what I want every email address to be.
Exactly. and if Jesus were to have said, if he wanted himself to be the end result of all things, he wouldn't be the way, he'd be in the way. He would be the conclusion.
He wouldn't be the way. He'd be
Instead of the movement, the
Yeah.
verb,
Yeah.
the movement through.
Yeah.
We already started a discussion. I haven't even gotten to the contemplative part yet.
Oh yeah, wait,
Because now it's no longer just about me. It's about me and you.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to mess.
Now
up.
we're teaming up on our narcissistic.
Forgive me for getting you out of your narrow way. Go.
All right, so let's take a deep breath. We might be inviting you to take a sip and a drink of this refreshing water, but be putting it through a fire hose. So I apologize, but that's what happens when we're together, and you are with us, and you are invited to participate in that with us. So I can't see the chat right now, but if you have a question or a thought or whatever, feel free to put it in there. But let's take a deep breath and give Spirit preeminence in this moment. And just as I read this, allow whatever words rise up, almost as if they've been crossed over with your favorite highlighter, that it rises up as being important for you. It's called for equilibrium, a blessing. Like the joy of the sea coming home to shore, may the relief of laughter rinse through your soul. As the wind loves to call things to dance, may your gravity be lightened by grace. Like the dignity of moonlight restoring the earth, may your thoughts incline with reverence and respect. As water takes whatever shape it is in, so free may you be about who you become. As silence smiles on the other side of what's said, may your sense of irony bring perspective. As time remains free of all that it frames, may your mind stay clear of all it names. May your prayer of listening deepen enough to hear in the depths the laughter of God. What stands up for you in that?
I think it was as time remains free of all that it frames, may your mind stay clear of all it names. And so it's, don't stand outside of your existence, so to speak. Mm-hmm. Just be caught up in it. Mm-hmm. There's a book, I think it's by Robert Irwin, that says seeing is forgetting the name of what you see. Mm-hmm. Seeing something is free. In other words, you see it and you get so caught up in it, you're not trying to name it. Yeah. You're not trying to categorize it, label it. You're just experiencing it, and you get caught up in, you see a flower or whatever, and you get so caught up in it, you're not even worried about what its name is. Or you see a sunset or something, and you just get absorbed in it. So that was, may you be free of the names.
Yeah.
The name that you give things.
And
so you're not an observer.
Framing time in your experience, framing it. And that's the expansive thing we're talking about.
Yeah. Just not trying to label or limit things or quantify them.
Yeah.
Just.
That's not the way we think, though.
No.
And that's why when you put it in that spiritual language, it's maybe outside of the way we would typically think is what spirit does.
Oh, yeah.
Brings us out of the mind.
Yeah. Which I've been educated in.
Yeah.
I mean, high school, college, seminary. I mean, it's just all, it's all categorizing. It's all categorizing it and labeling it and systematizing it and getting it all, in proper and good order. And it's like, okay, have you experienced it? I don't know.
Yeah.
No, but I can name it. I can describe it.
Yeah. To name it gives us a sense of intellectualism, and we think that is so important.
And also control.
And control.
If I can name it, I stand over it. Mm-hmm. I understand it. I name it. I've now labeled it, categorized, restrict. It's the saying, if you see the Buddha on the side of the road, kill it. Because if you see it and you've now limited it, then you don't understand what the Buddha is. It's big.
Or I don't know who said this, if it was just passed down through the years, but once you define God, it no longer exists.
Yeah, you've killed it.
You've limited it. I had a kid one time tell me when we were talking about these things, he was in about his fourth week of recovery from heroin, and he was listening. All of a sudden, something hit him, and he grew up in a very strict Christian evangelical background, so it was hard for him to think outside of that. Everything had to be named.
Yes,
Yes. And so when I was talking about theology and the way that we think about God, that, this very thing, that the minute it solidifies, it stops, and he goes, oh, he said, so theology is like cement. And I go, what do you mean? He says, the way you think about God is like cement, because those trucks always have to turn and keep it wet, because if it doesn't, it's going to get set in its way.
Yeah. That's it was Tillich, I think, Paul Tillich, who said, as soon as you say the word God, you negate God.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as you say the word God, because now you've got an image.
Yeah, you've objectified.
Yeah, and you go to Moses at the burning bush. God, what's your name?
Yeah,
and God just says, is.
Yeah,
is
the isness of God.
The isness. I'm Izzy. That's what we should call God. Izzy. It's just I'm existence. I just am, and you can't define it. And that's why the Jews, some of the Jews don't say the word God. I mean, when they come in the Bible and they're reading, they skip over. They won't. It's a silence, because you just no word
the
can
danger
express.
of objectifying. It's ineffable.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's good. It's like an experience that we have that you try to relate to somebody else. It's as we experience God too. You try to explain it, but if you went on a trip and you experienced something with somebody else and you're in stunned awe of what just occurred, and then you try to go tell somebody what happened, you had to be there. And you finally let go of it because you're like, you just had to be there.
Yeah.
And I think that's what if we define it, then we can know it.
Yes.
But if we don't define it, we have to experience it.
Yeah. Well, and think of, how do we live our lives now? You go to the Grand Canyon, or you go somewhere, and everybody's taking a picture. Everybody's seeing the world through their cell phone.
Yeah.
They're taking pictures. They're not just looking at the sunset or the Grand Canyon or whatever.
Taking it in.
They're not taking it in. They're capturing it. They want to capture it.
Want to capture it. Yeah. We want to do that with God.
We want to do that with God. We want to capture God, name God.
And
instead of it being a mystery. That's my favorite word for God.
Yes,
mystery.
Absolutely.
I don't.
And it's not an unknowable mystery. It's an eternally knowing mystery.
Constantly knowing,
We're
and learning,
expanding.
discovering. Yeah.
So when somebody says that they're higher power, when we talk about helping them to develop their higher power and they struggle with it, two things usually will happen. I get this probably more than anyone else, is the idea that I'm struggling with my higher power in my recovery because God is an obstacle. The term.
Right.
They don't realize it's the term God that's an obstacle. They think the actual isness, Izzy, is the problem. But it's more what the image they've gotten of God from everyone else who's objectified God.
And you're not supposed to make an image of God. Do not make images.
No wonder. We thought it was just the story of the children of Israel and they're making graven images.
Yes. Yeah.
But it was in our mind, the image we create.
Yes.
Oh, we create golden images of what God is, but it usually looks like Santa Claus without the red suit.
Yes.
A staff.
I don't want that image.
Not the naked Santa Claus.
Good.
But that, it immediately gives us the idea, the judge, the authoritarian.
Yeah.
But to when somebody comes with that idea of the image of God, and then we talk about higher power, and they go, I'm kind of saying universe. Now, some of our Christian friends might say, oh, that's wrong.
Right.
You got to be able to say God, but universe is expanding. Mm-hmm. So what I will tell them is this. Tell me what you think about this, because what I'll tell them is that's fine, because do you believe that there's more than universe? And they'll usually say, yeah, but I don't know what it is. That's the mystery.
Yeah.
So there is a great mystery that is beyond universe, but the only way you can comprehend and express this is in universe.
Yeah.
So their universe becomes higher power. So what I'll say is, don't ever let your higher power get in the way of the higher power of your higher power.
That's awful. No, you asked what I thought. No, I think that's really good.
It's the mystery that is beyond what I've chosen to focus on.
Yeah.
I am focusing on earth. I'm focusing on nature, on the flow of life and energy. That is the higher power that I might be focusing on. Love in general, but there is always something greater. Always something mysteriously greater beyond that.
Yeah.
And I can't freaking name it.
No.
Once I experience it, because it'll ruin it.
That's exactly right.
It'll limit it. It'll limit it. Yeah. We've already jumped heads in.
Yeah, we didn't even start with the question.
I know it. So this question comes from my nephew Sergio, who he's like, Uncle, you should have a podcast with other spiritual directors, companions, and kind of like an actor's theater way, ask them this one question. And then I thought, that's a great idea, Serge. So I'm going to try it out with Jim, and I want to ask you, Jim, this question.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
The way that Sergio framed it is in 20 minutes, but it doesn't have to be in 20 minutes. Not here, but if you had only 20 minutes with an individual, that was going to be it, or an hour, whatever. But if you only had a short period of time with the person, and that was the last time you were going to talk to them again, what would rise as the most important thing you would want them to hear from you?
I would ask them when and where in their life they've experienced the mystery, the divine, and to constantly be in touch with that grounding point, and then find that connection in every day of their life.
I kind of didn't see that coming.
Oh, okay.
No, it actually is really quite interesting, because I would have thought that most people would answer that, this is what I want you to know about what I know so that it helps you. And you just said,
know what you know.
Tell me what you know.
Know what you know, and stay in touch with what you know.
Dude, that is...
And take that with you.
That is so good, because I think that anybody would typically, the human response would be, I need to impart on them something that I feel will save their life, or the most important thing in life, but it's coming from your knowledge. And you're saying that everything that you know and experience and believe isn't as important as what their most important experience is with the divine, with the mystery, with spirit.
Yeah, but because that's where I found the divine. I mean, I am imparting, in some respects, what I know, because that's where I found life, is in my experience of the divine. And I found it in me, or I found that divine experience, in my own life at times, and I keep trying to develop that relationship, that experience. And so you find it in you. Yeah. It's there in you. You've had it, and then just trust it. Trust that experience, not other people's explanations or their experiences. Find yours and stay in touch with that universe, that higher power, that develop those experiences.
And there's only a couple of ways, I think, that you can come to that place. Number one, like you said, your experience took you there.
Yeah.
But number two is you give up the idea of rewards and punishment in hell and heaven.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you think that it's all about hell and heaven, you're going to try to say something to save them from hell.
Right.
Hello, evangelical world.
Yeah.
Save them from hell.
But the word save, in its root Greek, has the meaning of healing and wholeness. So if I want to help them be healing and whole, not save them from hell. I mean, saving isn't a future action. It isn't an afterlife event. It isn't a rescue from, it's a healing into.
hell, and that's
No,
what
saving is a healing.
saving. Oh,
is a
I was like,
healing
okay.
into.
Yeah.
So it's not a rescue from and a separation from or a getting out. It's not a rescuing from. It's a moving into. It's a healing into. So I would want them to heal into their life experience, heal into the spirituality of their life. So in one respect, I am trying to save them, but I'm trying to heal. I'm not trying to rescue them, but I'm trying to get them to the point of where they can find healing and wholeness in their
This
life.
is where a person from an unnamed university would say the same thing to you that they said to me, and I ended up not being able to mentor some college kids, that I'm changing the definitions of words that are in the Bible.
No, I'm changing the definition of people who have given the definition.
Amen. Yes.
Their definitions.
And that's how God gets a bad name.
I'm changing the definitions of orthodoxy. And I'm actually trying to be radical, which means go back to the root. What's the root word? Go back to the Greek.
You're not trying to be less biblical.
I'm trying to be more biblical.
More biblical.
Because I'm trying to go to the Greek, the original language and what kind of the original meaning was, not what we've meant it to be.
Passed down and
reinterpreted by each culture and used by the powers that be to use those words to affirm and maintain power and control.
And I think, in all the efforts to disciple, the discipling was really actually making disciples of what I want you to believe, not making disciples of Jesus, because Jesus would have been right on with you, I think. Our discipleship programs, and honestly, it gets so in the wiring of the brain. It takes a lot of, no wonder people are using drugs and drinking. Religious reasons.
Oh, yeah.
Oftentimes.
Well, the pressure.
They can't live up to the pressure of having to live outside those meanings and that box.
I mean, I spent 2 years in Japan as a missionary English teacher right after college. And how Japanese understood those words was entirely different than how Americans understood the words. And so I discovered what I was trying to define with them was my interpretation of it. But if I just simply asked them, what does this Bible passage mean, or this story, or this verse, and they would explain what it was in their language, it was sometimes entirely different or much richer or much more in depth. And so that's where I learned every culture, every language carries different meanings and freight to the words. And that's where I realized I've got a limited view to my Northern European, Western civilization, American Christianity. That is, it's a bubble.
Yeah.
And there are other worlds and other interpretations.
So let's say that somebody had given that to you, that knowledge in a textbook, or did it during one of their seminary trainings, that's the case.
Wouldn't have sunk in.
You actually went to Japan.
Yes.
And experienced and found it out for yourself.
Yeah.
No wonder you would say to that person, if you only had one session with them, what is your experience? Because we could teach them truth till we're blue in the face, but it doesn't, if it's not their experience.
But if truth is a noun, you can communicate it. If truth is a verb, they have to engage in the verb.
Have to engage it. Yeah.
If truth is a relationship, then they have to find the truth in their relationship, and that involves them.
And that is, to use the word definition, that defines the purpose of spiritual companionship and direction. It's not advising, consulting, but a good spiritual director will help you discover what you knew, but you didn't know you knew. And it takes a lot of strength to stay out of the way for somebody who uses a lot of words and it tries to be
and wants to be the center
of all of the world.
There was a woman in Japan. She'd been in my Bible study, and I read something out of the Bible in English, and I was talking about something, the grace of God. And after the class, she came up and said, "That's what I always thought and believed, but I never had a story to attach to it."
Yeah, that's good.
And I thought, that's evangelism. Giving people a story that they can attach their experience of the divine to and say, you've already got it. You've already experienced it. And here is, if I would say what Christian evangelism is, it's just finding a biblical story that matches up with their experience. It's not top down. It's not, you have to believe this. It's tell me your story.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a story in my scriptures that speaks to that. You're not alone in your experience.
Yeah.
There have been people
and it's a shared thing. We find out
it's a shared experience, which would be, it's a companionship thing, almost a spiritual companionship.
Yeah.
Well, that's the title of this.
Yes, it is.
Okay, good.
And actually, for one time, I think in the years I've been doing this, the title actually matches what I'm actually doing. Thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
Keep it there.
I try to keep you on the narrow.
It's because we are companions experiencing it.
Yeah.
Ah,
There you go.
light bulbs all
Try
over
to
the
keep
place.
you narrow.
Yeah.
Focused.
Good luck with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good enough.
I had something I wanted to add before. I thought it was important to say something clever instead, and I don't remember what it was, but the clever just seemed to be taken.
Better.
It was more important. Bad spiritual director, but that I would encourage people to seek out a spiritual companion, a spiritual director, and walk with them, because it is. I've found in the behavioral health field that is such a great companionship for to go alongside therapy and what therapists are doing. If you have a therapist that is not thinking they have all the answers,
Right.
but that they are skilled at being able to ask questions, but they get stuck sometimes.
Yeah.
People get stuck, and somebody said one time, why do you refer a patient of yours or a client of yours in counseling to Henry? And he says, when they get stuck, somehow it can unstick. And it's not me unsticking,
Right.
but it's those questions that help the person go,
I had a gentleman who came to the retreat center and said, do you do spiritual direction? And I said, no. And he goes, but aren't you kind of a spiritual director? And I said, yeah, but I do spiritual conversation. And he goes, I like that better.
Yeah.
And so that's what we've been engaged in for a couple of years now. On a monthly basis, we have spiritual conversation.
Yeah.
I'm not directing them.
No.
And
it's a misunderstanding of that term.
Right.
And I know Spiritual Directors International has started using spiritual companionship.
Yeah.
I also don't care for the casual nature of that terminology, though, because spiritual mutual discernment.
Because you have a certificate.
Yeah.
You work for, so
And I have a website.
Yeah.
So no, but from a standpoint of it's more than companionship. There's discernment that's going on.
Yeah.
And there are people who are able to have discernment, have a gift with somebody who is seeking discernment,
Right.
helping them to discern.
Yes.
So they're discerning with them.
Yes.
What are we hearing together?
Yeah.
Not what am I hearing so I can tell you and direct you the way to go.
Right.
But what is the discernment?
I like that.
And I can't, but there seems no other word, and director doesn't work either. And the reason why a lot of people said, oh, not spiritual direction is because there's only one director, the ultimate director. And I get that.
Yeah, but that doesn't work for me.
Yeah. Therapist is not good either.
No.
Counselor's not good either. There are no words, but I hate to break it to you, but from in this world of, you're a spiritual director, but you have spiritual conversation.
Yeah.
And again, it's because you're humble.
Yeah.
And so,
well, incredibly so.
So spiritual conversation.
We are superior.
Because you could say nothing and still be a spiritual director.
You could.
You could just sit with them as they figure this stuff out, but you're sitting with them and maybe praying for them. And don't go into that mode though, please.
Not appropriate.
I think we should probably leave it at that.
Okay.
I don't even know how long we've been going. Yep, that's what I thought.
How long?
It goes fast when we start doing this, but I'm so glad you were able to join with us. I think that I was going to start up Community of the Wild Goose again on the 30th, but then realized it's Memorial Weekend. So we are shooting for it in person the first week of June. So I'm super excited about that. And I think in that first one, we will have a spiritual conversation with the group about this time of re-entering the world from COVID. and for many of the things that you're coming out of too. For me, some cancer, and other people, grief, and moving into a new place, and to be able to just not jump into, I teach, you listen, we're going to pick it up where we left off. We don't want to pick anything up from before. We want to continue this year of this odd year of isolation, and take a deep breath and reflect on also the things that are wonderful that we can preserve and learn from and grow in, and that will help us move forward in our growth, in our spiritual growth in our life. And so I want to thank you for joining in on mine and Jim's conversations about the mystery we call God. And join us again next Sunday for a live stream. Once we start in person, we're going to continue this, because it's opened up a whole nother thing. And I'm excited about that. So God be with you. The Lord bless you. The Lord keep you. The Lord make his face to shine. How does that thing go? Lord, make his face to shine upon you. The Lord lift up his countenance within you and give you a joyful smile that will piss off every religious person that wants to name things all the time, and free God from his restrictions that we put on him. Love you all. Bye-bye.